Thank you for joining us for the New Orleans Mayoral Forum, presented in partnership with The Advocate. I'm Denise Botcher, State Director for AARP Louisiana. At AARP, we work every day to ensure that people can live and age with dignity, purpose, and security. Here in New Orleans, that means building a city that is not only livable, but truly age-friendly, where people of all ages and abilities can stay active, connected, and engaged throughout their lives. Today, we'll hear directly from the candidates about how they plan to strengthen New Orleans. That includes ensuring affordable and safe housing options for families and seniors, supporting emergency preparedness and response that considers the needs of older residents, and investing in communities that allow people of all ages to thrive. This forum is about charting a vision for the future of this great city. Today is an opportunity to hear ideas, ask tough questions, and consider the path forward for New Orleans. We're so glad you're with us. Let's get started.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Grace. I'm a columnist and editorial director for the newspapers here, The Advocate and the Times-Picayune, and also for NOLA.com. And I'd like to welcome you to our New Orleans Mayoral Forum. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to today's sponsor, AARP. We're joined today by 4 leading candidates competing in the October 11th primary for New Orleans mayor. In alphabetical order, they are State Senator Royce Duplessis, Certified Public Accountant Frank Janusa, City Council Vice President Helena Moreno, and City Council Member Oliver Thomas. Thank you all for being here. So here are the rules of engagement for today's event. Candidates, you'll have up to 90 seconds to respond to most questions. You're by no means obligated to use that entire time. Shorter answers could mean we get to more topics. I'll reserve the right to follow up. And we'll also have a lightning round of quick questions. So the first question goes to Senator Duplessis, and it's a chance for viewers to get to know you a little better. What one experience or accomplishment would you point to that best qualifies you for this job?
So, thank you all to the Times-Picayune and AARP for inviting me. It's an honor to be here on this stage. I wouldn't say that it's one experience. It's a multitude of experiences that makes me the most qualified, starting with the fact that I am a true son of New Orleans, proud to be from this city. Born and raised in Gentilly Woods, spent my time as a child on Pontchartrain Park, playing football with my 3 brothers, learning the rules of life through my parents. Worked at just about every job you can imagine, bus tables at Mandina's restaurant. I was a bricklayer's assistant. All of those experiences, before I wore this white collar, I was blue collar. Went to Xavier University after attending St. Augustine High School, earned my law degree from Howard University School of Law. I was chief of staff to a New Orleans city councilman in post-Katrina New Orleans, 2006. I was 23 years old at the time, and I learned the importance of strong, effective leadership, people who put people first. Mayors and city councils often disagree, but we work together to solve the problems of this city. I learned those lessons very early on as a young professional, then went on to law school, came back, chose to use my education and experience to give back to my city. I then was chairman of the New Orleans City Planning Commission. I've been special counsel at the Louisiana Supreme Court for Chief Justice Bernard Johnson, and that's all before my 7 years of being a legislator. 4 in the House, 3 years in the Senate, working in a hostile climate, working with people who I disagree with to deliver for the people of New Orleans. I'm ready to bring fresh energy and a new perspective to New Orleans to be the next mayor. Okay,
Mr. Janusa.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here with you. I'm a native-born son of the city, 3rd-generation descendant of Sicilian immigrants who helped build the infrastructure of this city. I'm a certified public accountant, a CPA, and I have been since the age of 21. My professional experience has helped me to assist individuals, families, and businesses navigate their finances for the last 52 years. What else have I done with regard to the city? I have been involved with marriage preparation for engaged couples because good marriage preparation through the Archdiocese makes for good families, which makes for good neighborhoods, which makes for a good city, and therefore a wonderful existence and a better quality of life for everyone in the city of New Orleans. And with regard to that, my wife and I were awarded the St. Louis IX medallion, which is the highest private medallion that the Archdiocese can offer to anyone in the city. In addition, being a 1969 graduate of St. Aloysius High School, only recently, in March of this year, I spearheaded a scholarship for individuals who will be coming to Brother Martin High School in the next several years. Our goal was $156,000. We are only $20,000 away from that goal in less than 5 months.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you, Stephanie. That's a great question, and it's really about what differentiates each candidate from each other. And what makes me different is that I've never been afraid to take on the hard issues and ultimately win for the people of New Orleans. And there's many instances of that, but I'll talk about 3 if I get the opportunity to get to all of them. But first, in the legislature, really focusing in on a topic that not a lot of people want to talk about, and that's the issue of domestic violence. And focused on this issue so much so that we were able to pass transformative legislation that ended up being modeled all across the country. And we took on the NRA and we won. And that was really the last time that the NRA had been beat, due to the fact that we put broad coalitions together to get something so tough done. And then on the New Orleans City Council, after Hurricane Ida, when we saw very severe power failures, I vowed to do all possible to start strengthening our power grid to withstand stronger storms, but also ensure that it didn't go all on the backs of ratepayers. People said that it was impossible. It would never be able to happen, but I got it done by being able to put in different credits and also federal grants to get it done. And finally, the issue of Gordon Plaza. For decades, people were stuck on Gordon Plaza, and it was because of my efforts that finally got people out of Gordon Plaza and into safe homes of their own.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas.
When you walk in your divine purpose, it's not really one thing that you can point to. When you walk in your divine purpose is an accumulation of life. It's not just the fact that I've been legislator of the year before. It's not just the fact that I'm the only person in the history of the city to represent 3 positions on the city council. It's not just the fact that I've studied the history. I've seen this city when it worked, and I've seen this city when it did not work. I'm the only person to have regional meetings with other council members, the first person to call a collaborative effort so that we could begin to work on regionalization. I am the only person to ask for an open letter, like the senator said, getting us together in the room, asking the mayor and the city council to have a retreat. We may not agree on everything, but let's work together, especially on those issues that we agree upon, so we wouldn't have seen or shown the public what we've seen the last several years. It's the 3 children that I raised in this community, my 2 grandchildren. It's the fact that our seniors need to be protected. When you look at the history of Asian history, they say that you can judge the civilization of a society by how they protect their elders. So I honor what AARP is doing, especially in combination with the Times-Picayune and the Advocate, because we've talked a lot about our working class, we've talked a lot about entrepreneurs, we've talked a lot about children, but what about the people who led the way?
Thank you.
They deserve to be comfortable in this city.
Thank you very much. Next question, we're going to start with Mr. Janusa. I think a lot of voters have, long wish lists for the next administration. What's the first change you think you could make that would have immediate or at least near-term impact?
First of all, any change in the city of New Orleans is going to require a budget that addresses the needs of all the citizens in a substantial manner. The budget is broken. We have an estimated $100 million deficit for this year. The city of New Orleans is under almost $1 billion debt load of bonded indebtedness. We have to start fixing that first. Once we start fixing the budget, everything else will fall in line. This will guarantee safer streets, essential services being delivered in a timely and an efficient manner, a generalized, better educational system, and a quality of life which will once again, I think, make us the Queen City of the South. Those are my desires, and I think once elected, I think they will come true.
Thank you. Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you. Well, as soon as I take office, my main goal will be to have a really complete reset at City Hall, where we will start working with complete coordination, collaboration, and also urgency. And different audits that you'll take a look at, seeing how government operations are being run now. Unfortunately, there is not that level of coordination or collaboration among city departments. And unfortunately, in some city departments, department heads are also not conveying to their employees as to what are the goals and visions of a department. And so ultimately, what you're seeing out on the streets is really the result of absent leadership at the very top. So with me, you'll have a very present leader. I always say that I will be a 24/7 leader, because to be a good mayor, you can't take time off when you want to take time off. The people of the city of New Orleans have to be your #1 priority. So a reset at City Hall, and then ensuring that basic services, that we finally have a path to get basic services right. And ultimately, this goes back to coordination and collaboration, because when we got it right during Super Bowl, when we had that level of coordination and collaboration, and that all came at the directive of the mayor. But the difference is, when I'm mayor, that won't just happen when there's a Super Bowl or Taylor Swift coming. That'll happen all the time, because that is what the people of New Orleans deserve.
Thank you. Councilmember Thomas.
I mean, leadership listens, but also leadership learns. We don't need to focus on Super Bowl. We need to focus on Everyday Bowl. The people in this community need those kinds of services, that kind of effort, not just when there's a special event, but because they're tax-paying citizens, and they deserve that every day. If you've watched the other forums, you've heard me talk about benchmarks and performance plans. Because in 9 years I worked for a private firm before I ran for office 3.5 years ago, I had to have benchmarks, accountability, and performance plans. The mayor should meet with civil service, not just when there's an issue about employment or some type of problem with an employee, but let's put together performance plans and benchmarks so that every department head, every civil servant, everyone who works in City Hall has some goals to meet. If we don't begin to provide and deliver basic charter services at the basic level that people expect, then folk will never have trust in us. We can talk about the budget and we can over promise and under deliver, but basic charter services. If I'm paying for 2 a day trash pickup, I ought to be able to count on the 1 day. If I call 911, anything after 10 seconds could be life or death. If you just fixed my new street and you come and dig a hole in the middle of my new street, I should at least expect that you will come back within 90 days and fix it, not when a whole nother capital projects budget comes along. So for me, how do we motivate? And I don't think anyone knows better than me how to motivate a city that's knocked down
to
get back up.
Senator Duplessis.
The most important thing that we're lacking right now in the city of New Orleans is leadership. City Hall is plagued by a crisis of leadership. And I just don't see how, if you've been there for 8 years, all of a sudden, in the second most powerful position in the city, all of a sudden, once you become mayor, all of these things are miraculously going to happen. I just don't get that, nor should the people of New Orleans. I'm bringing in a new style of leadership. That's one that's truly committed to putting people first, not politics, not agendas, just getting things done. What the people need to see within my first 100 days, after we do a hard audit to figure out how the city council left us with this $100 million budget deficit, is that we're going to dig ourselves out of that hole, find better accounting principles so we can begin doing the work that people deserve and need to see. 20 projects in all 5 council districts. That's 100 projects within 100 days where people are going to see stalled sewage and water board and public works projects actually begin to move. If you go to the public-facing dashboard right now, you can find probably 40 projects or complaints that were listed on the 311 website, and everything simply says pending. That's a problem, not because it's pending, because there's no measurement in place to say when the job should have been completed and when the job should be completed. No performance outcomes, no metrics in place. So communication and collaboration is certainly going to be essential, but within the first 100 days, the people of this city will start to see progress throughout this city because we need better leadership.
Okay, thank you. Next question is for Councilmember Moreno. We'll start there, and it's kind of the flip side of that last question. Campaigns to replace longtime incumbents are usually focused on change, and this, of course, is no exception. But is there anywhere where you think Mayor Cantrell has gotten things right and where you see yourself staying the course?
Absolutely. With the New Orleans Health Department, there have been a lot of really great initiatives that I have partnered with the Cantrell administration and with Dr. Jennifer Avegno. Some of them actually happen to be initiatives that I partnered also with AARP on, and this has to do with taking care of vulnerable populations after Hurricane Ida. After Hurricane Ida, myself and members of the health department were at different independent senior facilities where the owners had just abandoned those buildings and left seniors there. So myself and others, we helped to evacuate these seniors from these buildings. And myself and Dr. Avegno said never again would we allow for the owners of these facilities to just be able to just leave like this and not be held responsible. So we passed an ordinance to ensure that the responsibility would lie on the owners of these senior apartment living centers so that they too would have responsibility for the citizens who are there. And then also with the New Orleans Health Department, we have been able to expand domestic violence services beyond what any parish is doing. And this has to do with a program called the AIR program. And this deploys social workers to every victim of domestic violence so that victims understand what the process is to ensure that they are protected and also what it will look like going through the criminal justice system. And we have found this to be incredibly beneficial as far as making sure that victims and their children are safe through these difficult times.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Thomas.
Crisis management, when you look at some of the response and collaboration after Hurricane Ida and in response to COVID, you'll see that the city was in a much better position moving forward with extreme caution and the care in terms of how we came out of those issues and how we came through those issues. Also, I agree with Councilmember Moreno, work of the Health Department, the work with the Family Justice Center. As the author of the city's first domestic violence law, a lot of people don't really realize it was a male elected official who passed that first ordinance. Working with disparaged families, some of the work that Nate Fields and the outreach work that has been done with the homeless population and coordinating with Unity and other providers, and the cultural office to put our culture bearers where they deserve to be, not on the bottom of the economic chain, not on the bottom of our society, but our culture and our tradition is the thing that attracts people from all over the world, putting them 1A and 1B. Because without our culture, we really don't have the city. We don't attract 20 to 17 million visitors from around the world. So I think she's done a good job in that area by give crisis management and giving that community their rightful place.
Okay, thank you. Senator Duplessis.
When I was first elected to the legislature in 2018, I was assigned to the Ways and Means Committee. In 2019, the Cantrell administration came to Baton Rouge and we worked in collaboration with the Orleans delegation, the tourism industry, the governor at the time, Governor Edwards, to do something that had never been done before, which was to increase the revenue share that the city of New Orleans obtained through all of the revenue that we generate. Every single New Orleanian, whether you're wealthy, whether you're not wealthy, whether you're from uptown, downtown, across the canal or the cutoff, has a question. What happens to all of the money that we generate as a city? There were a lot of people who said it couldn't be done. The Cantrell administration was very successful in increasing that revenue share, getting tens of millions of dollars sent to Sewage and Water Board and more of what the city takes home. Certainly, we wanted more and wanted to do more, and we're going to continue to do more, but I think that's something that certainly should be celebrated because many mayors prior to that were not able to do it. I also think the mayor did a very strong and good job of saving lives during COVID. Very difficult decisions had to be made. Working in collaboration with Dr. Jennifer Avegno, lives were saved. And that was a strong move and strong leadership. And I think it also has to be pointed out that at this particular time that we're in, as we're having this discussion, crime in New Orleans is at a historic low in many areas. So those are some of the things that I would say this administration has done well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Janusa.
The Cantrell administration did a fabulous job with regard to the Super Bowl and did a commendable job with regard to the terrorist attack on New Year's Day. However, there are issues that I have with regard to the funding that comes into the city of New Orleans, which is why I indicate to the voters that it will take a CPA to unwind the city's finances. to reduce that bonded indebtedness and to get the budget in balance. Now, with regard to budgetary issues and cultural issues and the culture bearers, I had the opportunity last week to go to the Jazz Museum at the Old U.S. Mint and visit with members of the Ella Project. And one of the things that I indicated that I would have created in the city is the Office of Cultural Entrepreneurship, so that those culture bearers, those artists, those musicians, those culture bearers of whatever ilk can learn to run their craft as a business and therefore have a much more enjoyable and much more balanced quality of life.
Thank you. The next question, we're going to go to Oliver Thomas. I think I'm going to skip ahead a little because a few people have brought up the $100 million projected deficit, and that, of course, is going to be waiting for the next mayor as soon as they take office. Several readers wrote to us and asked us to bring this up. They'd like to know how you plan to address it, what programs you'd cut if that's necessary, and would you consider raising taxes?
Yeah, well, one of the things, especially because of my institutional knowledge and history of budgets and working on budgets, the $100 million, it's going to be extremely difficult for someone to say they have a plan to erase it, and we can't announce doomsday, furloughs and layoffs, and we're going to cut off charter-related services. As I've looked at the budget grow from $500 billion before Katrina to now $1.8 billion, I really want to know why did it grow so much with the inability to deliver charter-related services. Now let me break down $100 million for you. $70 million is from the general fund. $30 million is projected in revenue loss. So what do we know about that, especially from working with some of the gurus of the budget and being on the budget committee in the past? Those projections don't always equal realities, especially when you talk about deliverables and collectibles, right? So before we start to scare the public, we've only received a small share of Super Bowl funds. We're getting into the final quarter where more money starts to come in, and then the first quarter of the next year, you can usually rely on a lot of those receivables, and we have uncollectibles now that are out there in terms of millions of dollars. The Sewage and Water Board owes the city $50 million. We have two state laws, House Bill 498 and 570, which potentially costing us $16 to $20 million. EMS, because we haven't fully staffed EMS, we're losing potentially $12 to $16 million. There are a lot of options, we just got to look into it.
Thank you. Senator Duplessis.
I think it's important for the people of New Orleans to understand what this means. When we sit up here and we talk about a $100 million deficit, people need to understand how that impacts their daily lives. How did we get here? And I want to be clear. We're saying $100 million, but I've heard from sources that it could be up to $140 million. Our tax dollars, your tax dollars that you're paying into the city cannot meet the projected need for the basic city services for our city to function. This is in large part why over 20,000 people have left the city, because people are paying into a system and they're not getting it back in return. And this is painful. And how did we get here? Well, we got here because the city council is responsible for three things. That's the regulation of energy, land use and zoning, and the budget, adopting the budget. So on day one, I will have to go in there, do a hard audit within the first 60 days to figure out where any wasteful spending is, where any legacy contracts are. This would not be the first time that a mayor enters City Hall with a budget deficit, but up to $140 million is something that's serious. And I don't think that it's scaring the public. This is a reality that we have to face. And it takes collaborative leadership. If you ask the city council leadership what the numbers are, and you ask the administration what the numbers are, you might get 2 different answers. You might get 3 different answers. And I think that's part of the problem. So a collaborative style of leadership where we're going to operate in a transparent way and an accountable way will be the only way that we dig ourselves out of this hole.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Janusa.
The understanding that I have with regard to the $100 million deficit is that there is a shortfall in revenue of about $30 million and that there is excess budgetary spending of $70 million. Recent reports have indicated that some $9.6 billion was spent in the city of New Orleans in calendar year 2023. I would like to give you the 2024 number, but unfortunately, the city has not yet issued its financial statements to my knowledge. At $9.6 billion of spending, at a 5% generalized sales tax rate, the city should be collecting $480 million of sales taxes. The last statistic I saw, it was collecting $260 million. Therefore, there is a shortfall of $220 million, a fifth of $1 billion. These are circumstances that need to be investigated, audited, and fleshed out to find out why this is happening and correct it.
Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you. First and foremost, we need to find out what is the real truth around the budget. As you all may recall, during this past budget season that myself and Councilmember Thomas were part of, CAO came through, everybody came through, and we had the budget done, and it was ready to go, and all was good with the budget. Then here comes 2025, and all of a sudden, the Department of Finance says, wait, there's a problem. And the CAO even asked, well, why didn't you come and tell us during the budget season? They're like, we don't know. So first and foremost, let's find out what's really happening with the budget. But what I can tell you is that there are a couple of reasons why we're having these budget issues. One, it has to do with NOPD overtime. And so I'll be working with Chief Kirkpatrick, and already am, as to how do we figure out, how do we really deal with ensuring that we right-size NOPD overtime. And then another big issue that we have, and Councilmember Thomas also recently mentioned this, is that there have been pieces of legislation really forced on to different cities, including the city of New Orleans, that have been passed by the state legislature that have created different deficits. But once again, going back to the forensic audit, today I'm on the phone with Councilmember Jaruso, where we found that there could be an incorrect projection on what one of the bills that passed through this past fiscal session up in Baton Rouge, actually the impact is on it. So it goes to the forensic audit off the bat, and then after that, work on fixing the problem. And I'll be reorganizing city government, because there is a lot of bloat in city government as well.
Thank you. Let's go back to Senator Duplessis, and you alluded to this, but it's something a lot of people are talking about. Outmigration has become something of kind of an existential challenge for our city. More than 28,000 people have left New Orleans for other places between 2020 and 2024. What can be done to retain existing residents and attract new ones?
First, I don't think there's a better way to measure how well a city is performing than the number of people moving in versus the number of people that are moving out. People are just trying to survive.
Yeah.
People need an affordable place to live. People need a home that they can pay and not spend their entire budget on rent or utilities or mortgage. And that's the case for most New Orleanians. Most New Orleanians are spending way too much on the cost of living. And that's why people are leaving, in addition to the fact that we don't have enough good paying jobs outside of the tourism and hospitality business where people can see upward mobility for their families. And then when you look at the broken city services and our leaders can't get along, there was a sense of despair that I think pushed a lot of people out of the city, much different than what we experienced after our resurgence after Hurricane Katrina. So what we have to do is get a real leader in City Hall, someone that's going to prioritize housing. My plan is to develop over the course of 10 years, develop and preserve 40,000 affordable units in our city. It can be done. We have 20,000 vacant and blighted lots. We have 20,000 vacant or blighted properties. We have to get those properties back into commerce. We need to stand up an insurance program for the fortified roofs so we can do 25% of rooftops to help lower the cost of insurance. And we need to be serious about jobs in this town. We can't do it if we're constantly bickering and we're fighting with one another.
Thank you. Mr. Janusa.
On occasion, my wife and I will go to the North Shore to visit relatives or friends. And on the way back, typically on a Friday evening, you can see the outmigration. You can see the white lights flashing across the causeway, going to the North Shore, going to the homes that they live in now. People who likely lived in Orleans Parish over the many, many years with their families and their generations. The reason that they're going to other places, be it St. Tammany Parish or Jefferson Parish, is because evidently they've got a quality of life there that we can't provide in the city of New Orleans because we can't deliver essential services. Mm-hmm. Jefferson Parish has a wonderful streets maintenance program. I understand that we've got a very limited crew. Secondarily, the quality of life is influenced by the quality of government. And our quality of government is simply, sadly, lacking. We can't get the basics done correctly, and we've got to learn to do that. We've got to take the talent that we have inside of this city and utilize it to the best possible manner that we can. In addition, the City of New Orleans itself owns multiple blighted properties. Why can we not take funds from the potential, in my view, sale of the Wisner Trust, whether it's worth $35 million for the 35% share or $100 million for the 100% share, drop that into trade schools, let people learn to trade, to rebuild those blighted properties that the city itself owns.
Thank you. Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you, Stephanie. People are leaving the city of New Orleans because it's just too hard to live here. And that's actually one of the reasons why I decided to run for mayor, because so many friends and even family were leaving the city of New Orleans. I had someone tell me at one of my meet and greets, she came up to me and she said, you know, the city of New Orleans has a way of ruining your day before your day even starts. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? You know, she gets in the car, takes her kids to school, and all of a sudden you run across a never-ending construction project that all of a sudden there's a new detour. You take the detour and then you get onto Claiborne and all of a sudden the lights are broken and now there's backed up traffic. Now everyone is late, not because of anything that they did, but because the city of New Orleans failed to get city services right. And that's why I'm so focused in on making sure that we get our city services right. No doubt about it, we deserve more than that. But at this point right now, that has to be the hyper focus, getting that right. And then, of course, beyond that point, making sure that we have a city hall that isn't a barrier to create opportunities for people, because right now it is. The Department of Safety and Permits has become such a barrier for anyone trying to conduct business in our city, whether it's you're trying to open a business and it takes weeks to get an occupational license, or whether it's to expand your business, or whether it's to do a simple development, or whether it's even to do a piece of renovation on your home. Safety and permits has become one of the biggest hurdles, which is one of the reasons why this will also be part of my 100-day plan to revamp safety and permits.
Thank you. Councilmember Thomas.
People all over the world feel good about this city. This little glorious, grimy, wonderful place with some of the best tradition in food and music in the world. Millions of people come here every day, and they feel good about who and what New Orleans is. Why can't we make sure our residents, the people who live here, feel that same joy, that same motivation, that same inspiration? So I'm running for office because that's the very fact. How do we motivate public employees? How do we make sure that charter-related services, how do we have taxation with representation? How do people begin to feel like the political class hasn't moved away from them? How do people begin to feel that their taxes are going to the services that they need, whether it's trash pickup, whether you get your permit on time, whether young entrepreneurs see this place as an opportunity, whether my grandchildren or my 3 children don't say New Orleans may be an option, but that New Orleans is an option. And one of the things we really have to do is stop promoting doomsday and give Super Bowl effort every day. And so when the citizens begin to see that, right, they know that they matter. That, look, we can acknowledge the challenges, but you can't say it's a dumpster fire if you don't have a fire extinguisher or a solution to put out the fire. You have to be willing to show our people that, yes, we have challenges, but guess what? We can get up. We can be better. We can inspire each other and change the social order. Okay. Put our people first.
Thank you so much. Let's stick with the subject of opportunity here. And we'll start with Mr. Janusa here. According to the data center, the racial disparity in income in New Orleans is quite stark, and it's grown significantly in the last decade or more. In 2023, Black households in the city had a median income of about $38,000. Hispanic households had nearly $57,000, and white households had more than $97,000. What would you do to create more equitable opportunities for all of the city's residents?
Unfortunately, that won't change overnight, and it likely won't change in 4 years, because this is a problem that has existed for decades. And in my opinion, so much of it relates to the educational system in this particular area. It has been deficient in many aspects over the decades. How do we fix it? If you believe truly in your heart, in your soul, that the best way to generate a quality of life through your work experience is not simply to have a job, but to have a job that is more like a career, that is more like an endeavor that you realize that you can use to benefit society, benefit your neighbor, and benefit your family. How do we achieve this? We have universities in this city, Tulane in particular, that has an endowment of over $2.2 billion. And it's estimated that it earned last year in its fiscal year over $120 million. Why cannot a university like Tulane, and others, by the way, that have substantial endowments, drop some of that expertise, drop those logistics down into the public school system with their administrators, their student teachers, their interns, so that they can inculcate into the educational system the desire for better learning, better equipment, and a better quality of the educational life that our children will have.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you, Stephanie. Well, right now, our Economic Development Department has 1.5 people working there, has the executive director and then his part-time assistant working there. That is certainly not enough to work to really create opportunities for everyone in our city. So when I become mayor, I will create special teams within the Economic Development Department, including a team to really focus in on underserved areas, including New Orleans East, making sure that we're retaining businesses there, that we're fostering new businesses coming to New Orleans East. But then at the same time, I think it's critically important that we create the right workforce programs so that we have already a pathway for people to join these workforce programs and then be employed within city government. These are programs that existed in the past, but they no longer exist. Imagine being part of a workforce program, and I'm currently talking to Delgado about this, where now, upon completion of that training, you would get a high-paying job helping to be part of our street maintenance program. And then lastly, I'll just talk about this. You know, over my time on the council as a legislator, I've pushed forward pieces of legislation to really increase DBE participation and then also create a mentor-protege program. Unfortunately, these things have not been implemented because it is up to the executive to implement things and work on city operations, not the legislative branch. But when I'm mayor, I'll make sure that these items are implemented.
Okay. Councilmember Thomas.
This is probably one of the greatest challenges affecting New Orleans moving forward. Some of us who are from here, who grew up here, we didn't need Katrina to tell us that a third of our population lived out of the poverty level. We didn't need an outside study to tell us that black women single black women own 49 cents on the dollar, black men 70 cents. We didn't need a study to tell us that black children were poorer post-Katrina than they were pre-Katrina. Economic parity and stability is important. How do we stabilize our elderly population? We know they're dependable. How do we create access to universal child care so that every child who's at grade level and reading at grade level, the projections for them in the future are more stable? So economically, if we continue to move forward with our largest demographic having the poverty statistics, Hispanics have surpassed us in per capita wealth just post-Katrina. But the city is still about 60% African American. You're not going to be safe, you're not going to be wholesome unless we stabilize that middle class, get that entrepreneur class involved in the economy. If we don't do that, we're always going to be on a roller coaster when you talk about access to housing, access to quality education, and a safe community. So at some point, race shouldn't always be about the issue, but you can't have your largest demographic. You can't just pander to black people. We have to provide progress to the black community. And that progress gives us the kind of economic stability where our middle class and our entrepreneur class for black women and black men create a buffer for some of the social ills.
Thank you.
Those are facts.
Thank you so much. Senator Duplessis.
I'll just follow up from that, and we just have to be honest. Your question pointed out the stark racial disparities around economics in New Orleans. New Orleans is still a majority black city, but we are not just a majority black city. We are one of the most culturally rich cities in the world, where the contributions of black people mean so much, not just to New Orleans culture, but to the entire world. So one thing we're not going to do is ignore race, because race-based issues cannot be solved by avoiding the conversation around race. These are real issues that continue to plague our city, quite frankly, and I will not tolerate it. We have to, number one, also call out when things are being said that just simply aren't true. It's been said that the Office of Economic Development only has 1.5 employees, when the truth is that there's 7. So I don't see how we even begin to correct the issues when we are not having the facts straight. But what I will do is lean on my own life's experience as a black man growing up in the city of New Orleans. Like I said, before I was wearing this white collar, I was blue collar. Understanding the challenges of the people throughout the city from every facet. We're going to be a leader on the port expansion project, the St. Bernard project in Parish, and what that can do specifically for New Orleans East in the area of transportation, distribution, manufacturing. And these are jobs that on average pay $75,000 a year, where many black families, if their family was a member of the longshoremen, they probably didn't have any participation in the port. But we have to play up our strengths, and we can't be afraid to talk about the issue of race.
Thank you so much. The next question, we're going to start with Councilmember Moreno, and this is a question from our sponsors at AARP. If elected mayor, how will you ensure that our city becomes more age-friendly with accessible transportation, safe, walkable neighborhoods, and services that support affordable aging in place for residents who want to do that?
Yes. Infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. That is one of the, largest issues that we deal with, particularly when it comes to our aging population, but also individuals with disabilities. In many meetings that I've had with AARP, that has been one of the highest ranking concerns from our aging population. So ensuring that we do have walkable streets and streets that ultimately are much easier to navigate through. But at the same time, ensuring that we are taking care of our most vulnerable, which is one of the reasons why I push forward, and I'm now pushing for even more of our community lighthouses. Because as we know, when it comes to storms, we cannot evacuate everyone due to the quickness that these storms are coming our way. And community lighthouses, what these are different churches and buildings within neighborhoods that have solar panels and also batteries. And they provide a resource close by where people can get air conditioning and they can get resources when we do have a storm. And this is one of the things that we heard of so closely after Hurricane Ida, that unfortunately some people just couldn't get to locations far away from their neighborhoods to get what they needed. And unfortunately, some suffered very dire consequences. And so really focusing in on our vulnerable population, but also focusing in on better infrastructure.
Thank you. Councilmember Thomas.
One of the things we could begin to do is there's so many seniors who own homes who don't know that once you reach a certain age, you qualify, and you can be locked in terms of homestead exemption. I'm willing to sit and talk with the senator and other leaders about how do we raise that, especially for seniors who are fighting and struggling to make ends meet. You could potentially save about another 20% in terms of what they save as it relates to their property. Then I think what we're forgetting is that a lot of seniors are still working. They're part of the economy. How do we identify that population and their skill sets so that we can provide jobs for them, so that we can help train our young people? Let's not look at the senior population as a group that's aged out on the side. That's not the realities right now. Seniors are working 2, some 3 jobs. Where do they fit? How can we make life better for them? And when you talk about senior services, let's deliver their services on time and with a budget that fits their need. Our senior centers should not be struggling. In Chinese philosophy, they said you can tell how civilized a nation is by how they take care of their elderly. Well, let's start there with the most stable population that is given the most. So for me, I'm going to address it, and I'm going to treat all programs for our seniors and all access to funding for our seniors the way that my family took care of my mother and my father.
Okay, thank you. Senator Duplessis.
Can you repeat the question? I just want to make sure I'm clear.
I'm sorry. If elected mayor, how will you ensure our city becomes more age-friendly with accessible transportation, safe, walkable neighborhoods, and services that support affordable aging in place?
Yes. So yesterday, I had the privilege of spending my morning at 2 senior centers. One was the lower 9, and we had a wonderful lunch and meal. The other was Pontchartrain Park. And I spoke to my seniors. I spoke to our seniors. And in every conversation that I had with one of the wonderful seniors, they told me about an issue that they had been reporting to the city for sometimes more than a year, whether it was a tree that was growing on their property, or whether it was a street that they couldn't drive down, or a sidewalk that they were afraid to walk down and out of fear that they would get injured. This is a public safety issue for our seniors. They feel neglected. They feel left out, which is why, since I've been in the legislature, I've always made it my business to show up at senior centers all throughout my district, not just to play bingo, but to deliver resources so they can buy better vans, so they can have better services, working in collaboration with the New Orleans Council on Aging. Since I've been in the legislature, I've delivered $5 million to the New Orleans Council on Aging so they can build a new community center for our seniors. I will continue to do that as mayor. Budgets are a reflection of our priorities and our values, and too often our seniors feel neglected and forgotten. They will not feel neglected or forgotten under my leadership.
Mr. Janusa.
This month, I will be 74 years of age. Excuse me, I will be 74 years young.
There you go.
I am the most senior person on this stage, and I appreciate the opportunity to answer that question. One of the things I've noticed across this city, particularly having taken care of my own elderly parents until they passed at a very advanced age, that there are limited transportation opportunities for the elderly. And in that regard, I think that the neighborhood associations should stop acting as individual silos, but instead act in collaboration, particularly with the Council on Aging. This is not rocket science. For instance, the RTA bus system, as advanced as it touts itself to be, has bus routes that are unimaginably stupid. They go from point A to point B, and there are no riders in there. Explain that to me. At least the streetcars have riders because it's a cultural attraction. Council on Aging, in connection with AARP and the neighborhood associations, need to collaborate much more effectively. For instance, case in point, the Rampart Street streetcar, which was finally revitalized recently, stops at Elysian Fields. It could go to the Araby line, where that could generate economic opportunity for people both young and old.
Thank you so much. And this is going to be my last of the long-form questions, and we'll start with Councilmember Thomas. Although we got just 10% of the vote here, Governor Jeff Landry has taken a particular interest in New Orleans matters. Has his involvement been welcome, or are there areas where you think he's overstepped?
Well, anytime a president, a governor, federal or state officials are interested in your community, you would want it to be a positive, and you want a working relationship. But with the city of New Orleans needs from our governor and our state partners, we don't need predators, we need partners. We don't need people who are looking to take over the city. We need people who are looking to help prioritize the city. I would love to see the governor take a look at those House bills I talked about, 570 and 498, and the $16 to $20 million impact that they're going to have on our budget. I would love to see the governor reach out to the mayor and say, how can we help you, not how can we look at the systems that we think aren't working. And why is that important? The city has the state has 14 water systems that don't work or receiving failing grades. Our state is last in infrastructure. Our state is 50th in the economic viability and well-being of our children. Our state is still in the bottom 46 to 50 when you talk about educating our kids reading, being at the national level, being proficient. So I don't think a conversation about taking over aspects of the city is what we need from our governor. I think a conversation about how you help the city and ultimately help the state. I would love to see a governor that works with us, especially in a state that has European civil law and British common law, which says that everything we do when you talk about budget and land use has to be consistent with state law when you talk about budgeting and property rights.
Okay,
let's do a retreat, Governor. Let's sit down and look at those areas where you can help us,
Thank you.
not hurt us.
Thank you so much. Senator Duplessis, you're up in Baton Rouge.
I'm up in Baton Rouge, but New Orleans is a home rule charter city. New Orleans is a city of self-determination. This relationship of the city of New Orleans and Baton Rouge is nothing new. There's always been an attempt to extract from the city of New Orleans. There's always been a desire to control the city of New Orleans because we are the gem. We drive the bus. They understand that. Governor Landry truly understands that, which is why when he was elected, even though he got the fewest number of votes in my Senate district, he did something unprecedented by creating a transition committee focused solely on the city of New Orleans. That caused a lot of concern. It even caused me concern. It's one of the reasons why I was the only elected official, certainly the only Democrat, who was willing and bold enough to serve on that committee because I care about the city of New Orleans. And I respect the office of the governor, whoever is in office. But it's important that the governor focuses on working with us and not on us. We decide what works best for us, and we welcome support. We welcome a collaborative relationship. So whether it's dealing with the homeless population, whether it's dealing with public safety, we welcome that support. And if President Trump wants to send federal troops in, as Governor Landry has said he supports, I'm saying, okay, some of these things can't be true. You can't say your crime plan worked and you're welcoming federal troops. We want the resources that the federal government would give to the city of New Orleans so we can best police our own communities. That's the kind of relationship that we need to have.
Mr. Janusa.
Let me just put it bluntly and put it simply. I think Governor Jeff Landry has the best interests of the state of Louisiana in mind, and ultimately he has the best interests of the city of New Orleans in mind. Because as Senator Duplessis indicated, New Orleans is the gem of the state of Louisiana. It is the vanguard of its economy. If New Orleans dies, the state of Louisiana dies. Now, interestingly, should I be elected the first Republican mayor of the city of New Orleans since 1872, I think that my relationship with Governor Landry, a Republican, will be a much more interesting relationship than a Democratic a Democratic mayor would have. I think the very fact that we share some of the same ideals, some of the same items in the party platform, some of the same values, I think that will go a long way to generating additional revenue funds for the city, which obviously the city needs terribly. I think that personal relationship goes a long way. Matter of fact, I'm expecting the endorsement of Governor Jeff Landry.
Okay, Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you. Obviously, a partnership with the state is incredibly important. Everything from working with the Louisiana Department of Transportation to DEQ, DCFS, you name it, all very critical. But at the same time, obviously, completely against any type of state takeover of the city of New Orleans. But how did we get to that point? How did we get to that point where there was so much conversation around some kind of like takeover or stronghold over the city of New Orleans? The reason why that happened is because they saw that ultimately when it came to basic city services, the operations of the executive here, that those things were not being taken care of. And so therefore that left a crack in the door open for the state to come in and say, well, let me go ahead and handle it for you. Now, the difference will be when I'm the executive, when I'm the mayor, I will be taking care of our city and taking care of our city services. So that'll close the door to that level of state intrusion or state type of takeover, which is critically important. Now, at the same time, while Governor Landry and I may be this far apart when we talk about politically speaking, there are things that I have been able to work with his administration on, including a historic land swap deal where we have now acquired all of Duncan Plaza and in exchange for the state property there to the streets around the Superdome, which will create tremendous economic opportunities for the city of New Orleans. Once again, people said, would you be able to get in a room and figure out this deal?
Okay.
And I was able to do it.
Thank you so much. We're going to move to the lightning round now, and so I'm looking for short answers, one word or a phrase, and I mean it. Let's just say that. And I'm going to start with a few public safety questions, and we'll start with Senator Duplessis. On the subject of state involvement, yes or no, is the Louisiana State Police Troop NOLA experiment a success? Yes or no?
Mostly yes.
Mostly yes?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes, but they should be on the interstates.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, okay. One of the most closely watched hires for a new mayor is the police chief. This is a multiple choice here. Would you, A, keep New Orleans Police Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick, B, consider keeping her but also look at other candidates, or C, conduct your own search? And start with Mr. Janusa.
I approve of the retention of,
A, B, or C?
yes. He's
A.
doing a good job.
Keep.
A, keep.
Has earned consideration, but we need to
Okay.
develop capacity within the department.
Okay. Senator Duplessis?
A, keep.
A, keep. Start with Councilmember Moreno here. In January, the NOPD entered a 2-year sustainment period aimed at winding down the consent decree that's been in place since the Lander administration. President Donald Trump's administration recently joined Mayor Cantrell in asking judges to end the agreement now. Do you agree, yes or no?
We worked hard for sustainment.
Sustainment.
Yeah, maintain constitutional policing, but divert that money to city services.
Sustainment or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Keep sustainment, all four of you. Okay. Councilmember Thomas, yes or no? Would you close Bourbon Street to most vehicular traffic?
Pardon me?
Would you close Bourbon Street to most vehicular traffic?
No.
No.
I know it's still being studied, but
Yeah.
I would try. Yes.
No.
No.
Okay. Yes or no, would you support instituting a drainage fee to combat flooding that would be more broadly applied to property taxes? Mr. Janusa, I think. I'm sorry if I'm wrong.
Short phrase, in view of the fact that almost half of the property in New Orleans is devoid of real estate
So-
taxes, the answer is yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm going to let this be a jump ball because we'll see who, the last one. In just a sentence or two, name a past mayor that you admire and tell us why. And I'll call on someone if they don't volunteer.
I'll take that.
Okay.
I look at the administration of De Lesseps S. Chep Morrison
Okay.
back in the 60s, who became ultimately the OAS ambassador. He was a reform mayor. He brought around institutional changes to the city. He made the city work. He was a fine Democratic mayor.
Okay.
And I hope to be a fine Republican mayor
Okay.
in his same manner.
Next volunteer.
Former Mayor Mark Moreno.
Why?
I think the facts proved out success. We had growth and stabilization in our majority population, African-American middle class. More folks started doing business with the city who had not done business. We had the greatest reduction of violent crime with Chief Pennington, double the national average. Murder rate went from 424 to 159 with 503,000 people. Home ownership went over 41% for the first time in decades. It may not get a lot of credit during that time, but the facts prove success, especially when you talk about stabilization, dependability, and efficiencies in terms of government.
Thank you. Who
I'd
wants to
say
go
former
next?
Mayor of Dutch Mayoral. He was obviously a trailblazer, groundbreaking leadership, and being, not just because he was the first black mayor, but because he was the first black mayor and the things he did to open up City Hall, promote economic development throughout our communities, and all that he was able to accomplish to move our city forward.
Okay.
And I'm going to say Mark and Moon. Mark, because he truly was able to tackle one of the biggest issues at that time, which is violent crime, and Moon, because he did hard things and he stepped out there. Even when unpopular, he got things done, even when they were hard. And I so appreciate that and admire that.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We're going to move to 1-minute closing statements now, and why don't we go that way? Let's start with Councilmember Thomas.
First of all, I want to thank the Times-Picayune Advocate and the AARP. Stabilization and our seniors, the folk who've paid their dues, are extremely important. But I'm running for mayor really because I want my family to feel like not only is New Orleans the best option, but New Orleans gives them the best possibilities for the future. My 3 children, my grandchildren, the young entrepreneurs in my family, my nieces and nephews. I don't know what happened the 14 years I was out of office and the 9.5 years I worked in private business. But when I came back, I saw a city that couldn't deliver basic services with 5 and 6 and 7 times more money. How do we make public employees feel proud to serve? 90% effort, 80% effort doesn't work in a city that needs you 24/7. When I worked on the city council before, sometimes we would be there till 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night working on the issues that plague our city.
Okay.
I ask for collaboration
Thank
and
you.
cooperation because it's the only way we're going to bring all of us together to fix this city.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you. First, thank you to the Times-Picayune AARP for putting this forum together. I'll wrap up by saying that I will always fight for the people of New Orleans, and I will always fight to protect the city of New Orleans. I get it that over the past several years, the city council and myself, we've been at odds with the current mayor when we felt that the people's best interest wasn't being served. But ultimately now it's time to move us in a new direction. And while some people see a broken city, I very much see so much opportunity. And I see the solutions to fixing some of our city's biggest problems, which is the reason why I've been able to build such a broad coalition of support from neighborhoods all across our city. So now it's time to move past what has been and start really getting motivated and excited about the New Orleans that will be, because I'll tell you this, I'll stop at nothing to get the job done for you so that you can always call New Orleans home. Thank you.
Mr. Janusa.
I'm a native-born son of this city, born and raised in Mid-City, learned the value of education and the value of hard work. I'm a CPA, I'm not a politician, never have been a politician, don't aspire to be a politician. But I'll tell you one thing, it's gonna take someone who is not a politician, who's a CPA, who knows the numbers, because I'm the numbers guy. I eat, breathe, and sleep them. And I think I've got the ability, the experience, and the expertise to turn the budget of the city around. And by doing that, we will be able to release the proper distribution of essential services all across this city. It'll enable us to build the trades back up, to increase the educational services in this city, and once again, make New Orleans the Queen City of the South. My desire is not for political power.
Thank you.
My desire is servant leadership.
Thank you. Senator Duplessis.
New Orleans has always been known as the Big Easy. But right now, living in New Orleans isn't so easy. I'm running for mayor because I want to make New Orleans an easier place to live. I want to make New Orleans a more affordable place to live. This is personal for me. My wife and I are raising my 7-year-old daughter right now in the heart of Central City, in the heart of the city. We see the challenges. We see the struggle. We see the pain. We see the brokenness. We see the division coming out of City Hall. We see leaders who call the city that they've been leading for the past 7, 8 years a dumpster fire, but take no accountability for fanning the flames for the past 8 years, and now is all of a sudden going to fix them. I'm here to turn the page on the chaos and the division that we've seen coming out of City Hall. I have the leadership. I have the experience. I have the heart. I have the temperament to move our city in a direction to where we can truly not talk about the beauty, but actually live it, celebrate it, because that's the New Orleans that we deserve.
Thank you so much. And that concludes our forum. I'd like to thank the candidates for bearing with me, first of all, but more importantly, for stepping up to offer solutions for the many challenges our city faces. Thank you for watching out there, and thank you again to AARP. And just a reminder, Election Day is October 11th. Early voting starts a week from Saturday, September 27th. And if you're, for some reason, not registered to vote, you still have a few days. You have until this Saturday to go online at govote.com. That's GEAUX, vote.com. You can register there, get a sample ballot, find out about your polling place. And again, hope to see everybody out there at the polls. Thank you.